Animal rights activists storming a controversial dog breeding facility just outside Madison this morning.
Most Wisconsin residents would see something like this and be turned off by the idea of breaking in using sledgehammers, using saws.
Shortly after 8 a.m. Sunday, a team of activists led by attorney Wayne Chung penetrated the perimeter of Ridglan Farms, then tried to force their way inside the breeding barns.
Go ahead and report the plan.
Happening now, animal rights advocates are touting the recent arrest of activists at a Wisconsin facility that breeds beagles used for research.
Ridglan Farms has until July 1st to shut down its breeding operation to avoid facing animal cruelty charges.
They can just come the doorway. They don't need to come to the window.
The activists say they rescued the dogs at Ridglan Farms from abusive practices. Ridglan Farms rejected those claims to other media outlets.
Grabbing dozens of beagles from their cages and attempted to carry them to freedom.
The Dane County Sheriff says half of the activists were either detained or arrested.
Some could face criminal charges now, but Fox 6 investigator Brian Paulson just says the self-described rescuers got away with 23 beagles.
And Dane County Sheriff Calvin Barrett says they were able to stop 2 others.
Based off of our information at this point, all of those dogs were recovered.
That poor dog's blood's on your hands.
These are hostages being held against us.
This is a chance for the police to do something positive, and instead, they're protecting the evil vivisectionists.
How are your guys' mental health doing this shit?
In the Christian tradition, whoever does to the least does it to ultimate reality itself.
If we're arrested, what's the risk of getting a felony? It's pretty unpredictable.
So what's going on?
I'm not talking to you. Sir, you are in the middle of me trying to apprehend people. I need you back beyond them, sir, please. I don't know what you're doing. I don't trust you that close to not interfere with me right now. Please stay back.
I'm in the building right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have a tail.
22 beagles rescued from a Fauci-funded laboratory in a Tesla frunk getaway car during a blizzard.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have a tail.
In case you missed it, hundreds of activists recently broke into Ridglan Farms in Wisconsin to rescue a bunch of beagles from life in a laboratory. I just so happened to be a part of it, and I was supposed to be sitting in a courtroom watching a jury decide what happened to my little brother. This is the story of how I ended up doing probably the most illegal thing I've ever done in my life.
What's the risk of getting a felony? It's pretty unpredictable.
The same week, my brother's murderers were finally going to trial, and I barely escaped getting arrested, yet somehow I made it back in time for the jury deliberation and the verdict.
Here at the courthouse for my brother's trial, going in to get justice. Crazy weekend.
And today I want to tell my story, but let me back up a little bit. So in case you missed it, hundreds of activists recently broke into Ridglan Farms in Wisconsin to rescue a bunch of beagles from life in a laboratory, a Fauci-funded laboratory at that, a laboratory that's been documented selling beagles to NIH-funded labs for tick research and also doing surgical mutilations on the eyes of beagles by individuals who aren't even veterinarians. This all amounting to over 300 accounts of animal cruelty, leading to a felony in which their license was revoked, yet they're still selling thousands of beagles to laboratories to be tested on. You know, there's been a big conversation about vivisection, about animal testing being banned by the MAHA movement and RFK and Trump. The CDC has been ramping it down, and you can tell that it's something that they're trying to do. They've done some really monumental monumental things for animals, like banning animal trauma training, and they've been cracking down on vivisection and animal testing. And this is the very thing that they should be shutting down right now. Fauci-funded animal testing. These beagles could be the very beagles sent to do COVID testing. And here I was with activists deciding, hey, we're going to do something about it ourselves. But to start, many of you may or may not know, but my brother Dayton was murdered 3 years ago. I've brought it up a few times in various debates.
You know, we all have our traumas. My brother was murdered last year.
It's something that's been so difficult on so many levels for my family, especially my mother, and we've been waiting for 3 years for this thing to go to trial so that we can finally move from our grieving into a sense of closure. And that trial was finally happening just a couple weeks ago. I'd been in the courtroom for over a week actually, and we were coming to closing arguments and jury deliberations, and everything was coming to a head. And then I got a text. Sunday is going to be a very special day. So in case you didn't know, that's Wayne Shung, the co-founder of Direct Action Everywhere, also known as DXE, an outfit that's notorious for rescuing animals from horrible exploitative conditions, specifically open rescues, meaning they're not going in the cover of night, they're going fully open, typically in daylight with faces uncovered, to make a statement and get arrested and go through all kinds of jury trials and deliberations themselves in hopes of moving the law forward in favor of rights and protection for animals or God's creatures. And when I got this text, it was very vague, but I knew what it meant. See, earlier in the week, I had seen a message in a group chat about this beagle rescue that was happening at Ridglan Farms, and I had reached out to Wayne Shung about my interest in being involved with the process. However, given that out of nowhere, this jury trial finally started for my little brother, something I've been waiting on for 3 years, I was certain I wasn't going to be able to do it. Because I had a call that week with Red Team leaders, the team that was going in to rescue the beagles, and they said that the beagle rescue was going to happen on Monday of the following week, the same day that our jury trial was almost certainly going to go into closing statements and begin jury deliberations to get some kind of final verdict. And I knew that I couldn't leave my mom and my family there to have that experience without me present. So I told them, hey, look, unless there's a miracle and this trial ends sooner, or if one of these perpetrators who were being charged with my brother's murder accepted a plea bargain, then I wouldn't be able to come. But when I received this message from Wayne, I got the hint that maybe something was up. So I messaged him back, hey, so are you saying that Sunday is when the action's happening? And he gave me this vague message back again. It's most important for you to be there on Sunday. And realistically, that probably means Saturday night. So I took that as a cryptic way of saying that the action might actually be happening on Sunday rather than Monday, which would work perfectly for me because I could be back just before the jury deliberations. So I was faced with one of the hardest decisions I've had to make in a long time, which was to not go and risk not documenting one of the most important animal rescues to date, or go with no certainty of whether I was actually going to be able to document this beagle rescue and risk missing the closing statements or the jury deliberation, or at worst, the verdict and the moment there supporting my family and standing with justice for my brother. So I had to make a choice, and I made it. I packed my bags and I hopped in the car with my aunt and rode from Columbus, Georgia to Atlanta, Georgia, an hour and a half. I had her drop me off at the famous Dwarf House Chick-fil-A by the airport. It's actually the home of Chick-fil-A, where it was founded. And the reason I had her stop there, other than the fact it was close to the airport, was because I wanted to shoot a video that you'll see soon about not only my brother's murder, but how it's related to hunting and Jake Paul. So stay tuned for that soon. Anyhow, I was supposed to fly from Atlanta to Chicago and then drive to Madison, Wisconsin for the beagle rescue. That was the plan, except there was a tornado warning that whipped up in Georgia at the same time that my flight was scheduled, and my flight got canceled. So I slept on the floor of the Atlanta airport through the night, and I found another flight the next morning at 6 a.m., this time to Milwaukee. I rented a Jeep Gladiator 4x4 because I heard there was a possibility of snow, and I started my drive to Madison. So a little behind the scenes in Milwaukee, Wisconsin before the DXE raid, and I'm in the parking lot of Meat Eater. given I hadn't had anything to eat in a while since I was sleeping on the floor of the airport and my last stop was a Chick-fil-A, I stopped halfway to Madison at a Sweet Green, where it just so happened to be next door to a store called Meat Eater, which is a hunting store made famous by Cam Haines, a guy that's been on Joe Rogan. And you may or may not know, but my background is hunting. I was raised hunting in the South, and I actually covered my Christian youth hunting club in my film What Would Jesus Do?, which explores that very question in regards to how we treat animals. And so I shot a little video out there as well that you're going to see in the future. Check that out. I just filmed a little piece in front of this, and the guy inside came out with all of his hunting gear on and said, "Hey man, I'm a hunting videographer. I saw you filming out here. What are you doing?" And as soon as I told him, "Hey, can you keep a secret? I'm here filming animal rescue at a local dog breeding facility," he said, "Oh man, that's awesome." But then he went on to say that he films hunting and fishing, and he works at the Meat Eater restaurant, or not restaurant, he works at the Meat Eater store. Wild. That's why we gotta make Christians vegan again. So I just got to Madison, Wisconsin, and it is day one of Operation Beagle Rescue. I got my vegan banana bread muffin. Once I arrived to the safe house, I had a conversation with Alexandra, who at the time I didn't know. She was a star lead in the famous show Baywatch, and she and Ronnie let me know what the real plan was. See, everyone at the house, except for me, had been told that Sunday was a mock test run of the Beagle Rescue, a dry run to make sure that everything was working properly, when in reality, it was the date of the actual rescue, and this whole discrepancy was to throw off infiltrators and authorities from being able to prepare for the rescue. So I was told I had to keep this a secret, and it wasn't going to be revealed until we actually arrived at the farm. So Alexandra, the Baywatch lady, she began to pull out these crowbars and tools and hammers, talking about how to breach the facility, and team members started to step up to the plate to offer to use these tools and risk getting arrested.
Is anybody else open to cutting the fence? And if you're not, it's totally fine. You're badass. Okay.
And not only that, she pulled out one of the most secret of weapons, which is the adult diaper, in case you get arrested and you have to use the bathroom. And that was when I had to make a decision. You see, I came there to just document the whole event. I didn't plan to do anything illegal. And so I had told Alexandra and my team, as well as Wayne, that I had no plans to do anything illegal.
Who wants a large? You guys know?
I'm okay.
No diapers for you.
Good. That I was just there to be press. They even got me a press badge so that I could ideally stay on the public property on the shoulder of the road or whatever, but at minimum, if I go into the facility to document everything, I'm just there to document as press, and though it's technically trespassing, I had to be there to capture the action, so it would ideally save me from getting arrested. And the whole reason that I wanted to do that was because I wanted to ensure that I can make it back to my brother's murder trial and be there to support my family. So that night, I was supposed to sleep at the safe house, but thankfully, a friend of mine from California I found was at another Airbnb, and she had a hotel room that was vacant, so I was able to go at least get a little bit, like 4 hours of a night's sleep. That morning, I woke up at 6 a.m., and the first thing I did is my knees hit the floor in prayer, and I just started praying, God, please give me the wisdom to make the right decisions today. That was the ultimate prayer going into that morning, was please help me to make every key decision that I can make to not get arrested. And in fact, I don't ever do this, but I literally folded over and put my forehead on the ground like a Muslim, basically. And I prayed, just please, God, help me get through this. And so I put my first layer of gear on, which is my collared shirt and a tie to give the press effect, and then my brother's hunting jacket on top of that to have him there with me. And I headed off to meet the team with an already frozen Jeep Gladiator and hail beginning to fall on the ground early that morning. We quickly checked all of our gear and packed up the van with all of the rescue crates for the dogs and started driving to the first location where we rendezvoused with all the other teams and vans. And that was the moment when everyone else found out this is not a drill. The rescue's happening now.
Listen up, everybody. This is not a test. We're going to Ridglan in 20 minutes. And
So Ronnie is going to.
This is the briefing. We are skipping today's simulation and moving to the live rescue immediately to maximize our chances of rescuing dogs.
So we proceeded to put on hazmat suits and booties and all the gear necessary to enter the bio-controlled facility. We didn't want to risk any press or anything legally that would imply that we were somehow putting the Beagles at risk through contamination. And still, my mind was running on how much risk I was taking at actually getting arrested.
If we're arrested, what's the risk of getting a felony? It's pretty unpredictable.
And not only that, while we were waiting for the last van to arrive, we found out that one of the vans was actually being tailed by someone. They were being followed. And I found out that there were actually infiltrators in the group who had been there for the last couple of days being trained with the team and pretending like they were team members when really they were just giving information to Ridglan or to the authorities. So we didn't know what we were about to enter into. But we rallied and we started driving to the farm. And once we finally got to the farm and we pulled over to the shoulder, I opened the door, and when my feet hit the ground, it was game on. I threw on my camera, I started filming, I ran up to the front of the pack. Before I could even process what was going on, there's a full file line of all of these activists marching with Wayne Chung at the front. And then I turned to my left, and at the gate, there's two activists already sawing open the chain link fence to let all of the activists through. As we walk into the facility, one of the workers pulls up in a golf cart and starts yelling, and Wayne's trying to tell him, hey, come back, I've got paperwork for you, to show them that we had the right to rescue. But he flees off and probably calls the cops.
Move off to the east. But we should go ahead and move forward with the plan. Carla, you're going to the left. Alexandra, you're going right.
And that was when I flanked with Alexandra and my team to the door they were assigned to. And that was when I first heard the Beagles just squealing and screaming from the inside, wanting to get out, hearing us there to rescue them. And so crowbars went in and they started being hammered, and there was minutes going by trying to breach into this door as these Beagles are just screaming for dear life. And as the time goes by and the attention shifts to now trying to cut the hinges off the door, and there's just all of these reinforcements to the door not allowing us to get in. And amidst all that chaos, we hear on the radio that another door has been breached. Turns out Wayne grabbed a hammer and hit out a fan of a window of another door and started shoving activists through the window, got the door open, and started heading for the Beagles. By the time I got there were already activists headed out of the facility with Beagles. And then I stormed into the facility and started filming my team members grabbing Beagles and started filming the Beagles themselves just pushing their faces into these cages, begging to be rescued. And I have been in this situation before when I made my film Christspiracy, also called What Would Jesus Do? We went to the world's largest animal sacrifice in Gadamai, which is an animal sacrifice in Nepal where hundreds of thousands of animals are killed in one day by millions of Hindu devotees. And we were actually able to rescue a goat in that scenario. And I know what it's like to be around that kind of horrific animal cruelty. And what happens is you kind of go into what I call justice mode, which is you see all the sadness in the eyes of these beings wanting you to rescue them in that moment, but you kind of have to just turn off into what's my job here? And my job was to capture. But after watching multiple activists grabbing Beagles to take them out and realizing there were so many that wanted to be rescued that were being left behind, I saw a little Beagle girl, one of the tiniest ones there, huddled in the back of the cage, just whimpering at me with her eyes. And I couldn't help myself. I knew I couldn't leave her behind. So I opened the cage and I grabbed her. The thing I said I wasn't going to do, I did anyways to make sure that this sweet soul got out of that facility and out of that life in that horrible laboratory. I grabbed her and I ran out the door for dear life, for her dear life. To my right, I'm seeing police officers arresting activists, hail's coming down on my head. You can actually hear it on the microphone. It's now hailing. And I ran her all the way up while watching Alexandra and Ronnie and others running through the field. I happened to see a bat on the ground, which turns out it was actually a bat from one of the locals who was actually threatening the activists. Once I got close to the road, I saw there was a local tail spinning out in his truck threatening the activists like he was going to run over them. He was slashing the tires of one of the vans. Police were descending on the complex from every direction, arresting activists and actually grabbing the Beagles. And that was the moment when I got probably the most heart-wrenching and powerful footage of the whole experience. 2 police officers were confiscating, literally arresting a hostage, literally prying the Beagle from the cage as she was holding on for dear life. Activists were screaming in the background for them to stop, but instead of protecting the hostages, they were arresting the Beagles and protecting the criminals at Ridglan Farms.
Supposed to be helping victims. These are hostages being held against their will.
Shame on you! I suggest you leave. Do you have a dog at home? I suggest you leave. Do you have a dog at home? I suggest you leave. There will become forces.
Others are being taken back to captivity. The police force has always been protecting the evil barbarians of our society instead of the innocent victims. Animals have been held captive their entire existence. Here's a chance for the police to do something positive.
At that moment was when I realized that multiple vans had not left with Beagles yet, and I didn't know if they were going to make it out or not. I looked to my left, and another one of the vans was actually stuck in the mud with activists trying to push the van out as everyone was screaming for everyone to get out of the road and not get run over. And as I'm watching it all go down in real time, everyone around me is getting handcuffed, and I'm trying to figure out how I don't become one of them. And that was when my first key decision hit me, the very decision that I prayed for in that hotel room the morning before. I looked down and I saw that I was still in my hazmat suit, and I knew in that moment I had to get it off immediately to not appear to be one of the rescuers. Not only was it important I wasn't arrested so I can make it back to my brother's murder trial, but also so I could save the footage from the event, because if I got arrested, there's no doubt they would have confiscated my camera and my memory cards and all of that, and I would have lost all of this footage. My only way out was to pretend that I was press and really lean into my press badge. I looked down and realized I was still wearing the all white of the rescue teams, and so I started ripping that off as it's just hailing all over my camera. The booties and the leg holes are stuck over my boots and I'm falling down in the mud, but I was able to get it all off and just get down to my regular clothes. At that moment, I saw that the van that was stuck in the mud was fully free, and I ran up. It was the last van standing. All the other vans had started driving down the street, and as I approached the open sliding door of the van, there was one seat left at the very edge, and I hopped in as they were basically driving away and I was about to fall out.
Okay, good work, everyone.
Threw one of the dogs on the ground. So I think they were trying to leverage it. So let's think my dog.
I don't know how you guys do this shit.
Think about how many are successfully out, okay? That's the key. That's the key.
How are your guys' mental health doing this shit?
It's all part of the bigger movement to free all of them.
In the Christian tradition, whoever does to the least does it to ultimate reality itself.
Like, being nonviolent sounds nice, but like, how do you guys do it?
We just did it, boo.
That's right. There's no.
And we started driving down the road, only to find ourselves barricaded behind 2 other vans with cop cars stopped at the front. And that was when I made key decision number 2. I had this strong urge that I needed to hop out of the van so that I could film whatever was happening at the front of the barricade. It seemed like Wayne was actually up front getting arrested. And I mean, the moment that my boots hit the ground outside of the van, a police officer came to the driver's side and announced that he was going to be detaining everyone inside of that van and that he needed to see everyone's ID immediately. And then he looked over and saw me over to the shoulder of the road and said, "Who are you? Are you press?" And I was able to show him my press badge, and he said, "All right, get to the back of the row."
I'm press. Not here. Nope. I'm no press here right now. I can't be distracted by people who I don't know.
So what's going on?
I'm not talking to you.
I don't want to see you here. I don't want you disrupting my process here. I'm detaining everyone.
Sir, you are in the middle of me trying to apprehend people. You need to get beyond them.
I'm press.
I don't care.
And if you come any closer to me, you're getting detained too.
Sir, please, I don't want you that close. I don't know what you're doing. I don't trust you that close to not interfere.
So I said, yes, sir, officer. And I moved to the back of the line and started filming as best I could as he was grabbing everyone's IDs. And then I'm thinking, how in the world am I going to get out of here? I was expecting to leave in that van, but now everyone's being detained. And I also want to really appear to be press, and the only way I could do that is if it appears that I had a ride separate from the van. And I look to my right and I see at the end of the line of vans is a blue Tesla. So I approached the Tesla to ask for a ride, and turns out Curtis, the driver of the Tesla, knew me from my previous work, and I told him, I'm gonna pretend like I'm with you and I'm riding with you if you'll give me a ride out. And he said, sure, I'll do it. And as we're having this discussion, the cop comes back over and thankfully assumes that Curtis is press as well and tells us that we both need to back up. Around that same time, Curtis gets out of the car and he goes up to check on the van and asks them, hey, is everybody doing okay in here? And the police officer hears him say that and says, wait a minute, I have every reason now to believe that you're with them and I don't trust you.
So you just came up and asked them if they were all good.
Yeah.
So at this point, at this point, please let me finish. Sure. At this point, because you're engaging with them as such, now I'm under the impression that you're affiliated with them and know them. And I am lawfully detaining these people to ask them about what was going on up there. And because you just demonstrated to me that you were affiliated with them,
I ask anybody that's engaging with the police if they're all right.
So at this point, I asked you guys.
And he starts berating him and asking him for his ID, and thankfully Curtis stands his ground and says, you have no reason to get my ID or to arrest me. And about the time that all of that chaos settles down, Curtis looks over to me and says, hey man, we got a problem. And I say, what's that? He says, I've got 2 Beagles in my Tesla. And I'm like, what? No way. And he says, yeah, man, look, I'm trying to take them out when the cops aren't looking and put them in the frunk of my Tesla, the front trunk. For those of you who don't know, there's this famous feature of Teslas where because they're, battery powered electric cars, they don't have an engine in the front, so they have actual trunk space in the front of the car. So the idea being, if we could get the Beagles into the front trunk, we could smuggle them out safely without getting stopped by any inspection of the inside or interior of the vehicle from the police on our way through the barricade. About the time we were going to attempt to do that, another cop pulled up behind the Tesla, pretty much guaranteeing there was no way we were going to be able to make it happen. But thankfully, the officer comes up and tells me, hey, we're now moving all press to Mount Horeb Police Department. All of the detained activists are going to be there. Press needs to go there now. And then he goes over to the Tesla and tells Curtis. Curtis rolls down the window by about a ½ inch. And the whole time I'm acting like I don't even know who Curtis is, just in case he discovers that the Beagles are in the car. But thank the Lord they did not bark for whatever reason and didn't draw any attention. And Curtis was able to turn around to head the other direction.
So I hopped in with this guy who's pretending to be press as well.
I hopped in the car with him and we started driving back towards Ridglan Farms, and then we found a pull-off to get those Beagles in that frunk.
So I hopped in with this guy and he's putting a dog in his frunk.
After securing the precious cargo, we headed out to the other side exit of Ridglan Farms, where there was another police barricade with tons of yellow team activists who were protesting outside. The news was there, and there was a big truck blocking the exit along with more police vehicles. So in that moment, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna hop out of the car and help him get the Tesla through this little gap. But in the meantime, I'm gonna pretend like I don't even know who he is, just in case he gets detained. But thankfully, he was able to get out, and I had a few choice words to say about all the activists who were being arrested behind me.
They're going to try to label these activists as terrorists, just like they did Jesus 2,000 years ago when he cleansed the temple. But what would Jesus do? And better yet, what would you do?
And I hopped in the car with Curtis, and we were on our way. After speeding out about 10 miles, Curtis gets the feeling that we have company.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have a tail.
So Curtis calls another team member to get the address to the farthest safe house where all the Beagles were headed to make sure that they were secure.
I would stay up there right now. No, I have 2 dogs, bro. Okay, well then you definitely need it. Fuck yeah, dude. Curtis.
And really, we were just tripping on the fact that we even made it out of there.
It's like hitting me like every little decision I made to get to this moment.
and he proceeds to tell me the story about how he even got the Beagles in his Tesla in the first place.
I was parked right next to where one of the other vans got stopped, the one that had the flat tire. And I told him, I was just like, hey, go swarm the vehicle that has the dogs in my back seat. I was able to switch them to the frunk. Thanks, Daddy Elon. They're in the front. Thanks, Elon. What is that? What's that say? Oh, Baker's. So we just made it to a charging station for the Tesla, halfway to the safe house, where we're gonna get these Beagles warm. And thankfully it's got an animal mode on the inside while we go get some Mexican food and get on our way. And that was the moment I got to open up to Curtis that I was doing all of this in the middle of my brother's murder trial, right as we were barely escaping the police. As we speak, this last week, I was in the middle of a murder trial for my brother's murder. My brother was murdered 3 years ago, and I had been planning to come to this action, and they activated the trial with the 2 suspects this week, so I've been 3 hours away from my hometown where my family lives, just in this town where this happened, and the judge and the defendants are defending the case for the last week. And there was a bomb threat on Friday at the building, which pushed it into this week, and I thought I wasn't going to be able to make it. And then Wayne reached out to me personally and said, hey man, Sunday's going to be a really special day. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I think I know what you mean. That night, we made it to the safe house and reunited the 2 Beagles from the Tesla frunk with the other 20 that were rescued. We got to play with them, give them all kinds of kisses and love and dog piles. And when they were rescued, not only was it the first time they probably had fresh air and sunlight, it was probably the first time they ever had a loving embrace, showing them that they're more than just a number. 22 lives were saved, 22 dogs that were going to spend the rest of their lives caged and being experimented on and mutilated with our tax dollars, and all of these brave activists got them out. And I went to sleep that night to the sound of 20 howling Beagles, trying to get some sleep for my early flight out of Milwaukee to Atlanta the next morning to get back to my brother's murder trial that Monday morning. Back at the safe house with the pups, and there's already probably about 3 inches of snow on the ground, so I don't know if I'm flying back to Georgia tomorrow. And I found myself waking to a blizzard that hit Wisconsin. This is the snow. This is the snow that I woke up to this morning. Hopefully I can get out of here with my flight delayed back to Georgia to get to my brother's trial on time. I don't know if I'm doing this right, but my first time driving in snow like this. I'm just a southern boy. My flight from Milwaukee got canceled and I was stranded. So I called some guys from the south who had been at the rescue. They had already driven all the way to Chicago, but they turned around an hour and a half back and picked me up from Milwaukee like bosses. So due to all the snow, my flight out of Milwaukee got canceled. But now for the second time, like the Beagles, I've been rescued. I was rescued by Curtis in the Tesla, and now I was rescued by none other than the criminal himself, Jeremy, and Trey. And we are driving now through the night as far as we can. I'm trying to get to Louisville, Kentucky if I can, to be able to go on a flight to Georgia and make it back for the trial with my family. And that couldn't be a more chaotic ending to what was already one of the most chaotic weeks or weekends of my life thus far. Thanks guys so much for coming through.
Yeah,
appreciate
of course, man. It's you. It's Cameron Waters. Of course, we're gonna come back for you.
Oh man.
We stopped at the Chicago Diner, and that's where we started uploading our footage. All of it started exploding and going viral in real time on social media. And as we're sitting there in the Chicago Diner watching this footage blow up and go viral on social media, I'm thinking, this is actually working. People are seeing this, and they're standing with these beagles. They're spreading the message everywhere, and we are going to shut Ridglan Farms down so that no beagle is exploited there ever again. After the diner, we drove all the way through the night till 4 in the morning to Louisville, Kentucky, where I was able to catch a flight to Atlanta and then a shuttle from Atlanta to Columbus. I'm checking my phone every few minutes, just seeing the videos and the posts going nuclear viral about this event. News outlets are picking it up, international coverage, and then somewhere in the middle of the shuttle from Atlanta to Columbus to my brother's murder trial, it hit me. Earlier this year, I did a 21-day water fast. No food, only water for 21 days, a fast for justice. I was praying for justice for my brother's murder trial. I was praying for justice for all beings, God's creatures, the animals on this planet being exploited everywhere, and for clarity on how I could better serve that mission. And I was also praying for healing for my grandfather with a lung condition that's apparently irreversible. And what hit me in that moment is all of those things that I had prayed for were coming true in ways that I never expected. I got a text from my grandfather saying, I'm free from the bondage of dairy. He started cleaning up his diet and feeling better, and healing was coming about in his life. And in the most unexpected way, my prayer for justice for all of God's creatures, for the animals, was being answered by this beagle rescue. As it was going viral, I realized that this was having so much impact. I originally was praying for farmed animals, for animals being exploited in factory farms and slaughterhouses and ranches around the world, only to realize most people have no idea that dogs, man's best friend, are still being so brutally and cruelly exploited in these labs, and this was making a difference. I could feel for the first time that we're actually at least going to end animal testing in our lifetime. And now finally, I'm walking into the final piece of the puzzle, justice for my little brother, as I'm stepping into the jury deliberations with my mom. And after being back with my family and all the emotions of the trial and 24 hours of waiting, we finally got a verdict back. Guilty. And while I'll say that it's just a horrible situation all around, I'm, definitely a person who's more on the side of restorative justice. The two individuals that took the life of my brother at gunpoint are definitely not remorseful at this point, and they are a danger to society. They're a danger to human beings, to animals, to everyone around them, and it's best that they aren't able to get to the public at this time, and that they're incarcerated and unable to inflict any more violence or harm on anyone. I hope and I pray someday that they turn their lives around, and if they do, I will be happy to interact and find some restoration and be able to reach a point of interaction and forgiveness with these individuals. But right now that's just not the case. And through the whole process, one of the things that I've really come to learn is whether it's these beagles in a lab or pigs in a slaughterhouse, or my brother getting hunted and gunned down on the street, or a deer getting hunted and gunned down in the forest, life is precious, is everything to every individual, and not only to those individuals, but to the families that love them. Every beagle in a testing facility has a mama or a brother, just like I have a mama and a brother. And just like my mom grieves the loss of my brother, the beagle mother grieves the loss of their child as they're ripped away to be surgically mutilated without anesthesia, or the pig or the cow or the chicken or the sheep is ripped away from their family to be mutilated and slaughtered or used for their milk or whatever it may be, or the way the deer mama is weeping for her child and looking for her child in the wild when they're shot by a hunter. Murder is murder, whether it's a beagle, a farmed animal, a wild animal, or a human being. And that's why I keep coming back to that these dogs were in cages being experimented on with taxpayer money, with our dollars, in Fauci-funded labs with NIH contracts. And it's not some fringe conspiracy, it's well documented, and it can end now. RFK, Trump, the Maha movement, vivisection could be shut down and soon, but it takes people being willing to act. These activists are going to be called criminals. They're already being called criminals, just like Jesus was called a criminal 2,000 years ago when he walked into the temple, which was the slaughterhouse of his time, and he freed the animals. The abolitionists were called criminals. The civil rights leaders were called criminals. Every movement that has ever mattered had people who were willing to risk everything because they knew what was going on was wrong. My brother Dayton was killed by the kind of violence that our culture has normalized. We're desensitized to suffering, human and animal, because we built an entire system around it. If this story meant something to you, first and foremost, share it, because millions of people need to see what's happening inside of these labs. And if you yourself want to actively take part in freeing the rest of the Beagles from Ridglan Farms, now's your chance, because we're actually going back on April 19th. There's a link in the caption here where you can sign up to be a part of it. Also, if you want to understand more about the deeper history behind all of this movement that is as old as Scripture itself, watch our film that asks what would Jesus do about animal exploitation and uncovers a 2,000-year cover-up about Jesus and the Nazarene movement, the first direct action animal rescuers ever. The link is in the description to watch now free.